Okay, I want to give you a little update on this motor generator. Right now I've been doing some measurements and some testing on this. What I ended up doing is putting in two brushes for the rotor. In the rotor itself we have about 8.1 ohms in our windings, and that's the double wiring over there on the rotor itself. That roughly gives us a roughly around 1.4 amps of draw, but the back EMF is really huge on that particular winding. I'll show you just the little sparks on this is really big. It's a big spark on that baby. On these other coils, believe it or not, it's just kind of amazing that the numbers are adding up. Each coil is about 2 ohms in my resistance. That means basically at 12 volts I'm going to pull about 6 amps for a single coil. But if I put them all in series, actually it will be almost identical to the amount of amps I'm putting into the rotor. And the key is, what I'll do is energize this just to show you the coil being energized, and then I'm going to spin this and we're going to see what kind of voltage is coming off this coil now, the rotor itself. So it should be a pretty interesting test on this. I'll talk to you in a little bit. Okay, I ended up hooking up the stator itself. I basically ran them in series actually to make it about 8 ohms. So I'm pulling roughly about 1.4 amps on the stator itself. This is going to be generated from the rotor. We're going to now pull a power from this. And this is my little test light. What's going to happen is, because we have more windings inside my rotor, it's going to pick up a lot more magnetic field. So when you're rotating it, you're going to have a much higher voltage going in compared to, coming out instead of going in. So let me just energize this stator right here. All right, we got that energized. We got our little light hooked up, and as you can see, it's not spinning too fast to actually generate a high pulse. Now this is AC that we're doing, so everything so far looks good, because what I can do is, on this particular unit, I can actually control these stators, and what I want to do is actually get this up running and then allow the flywheel to rotate and then start pulling power from the rotor itself. So we got some power going on to that, which is not bad at all. I'm not really spinning it real fast at all. It's almost acting like a stepper motor type. So it's a very low RPM, and of course we're dealing with, this is a 4-pole, so that means usually around 1800 RPMs I'm at 60 Hertz. So everything's working pretty good as far as the testing. The brushes are easy. I just basically made a nice little plate, made sure it's not it's not sparking too much, and everything's real nice and tight on that. So, but look at that kind of output. We're getting some real good output on that, on just a very low RPM. So the main thing is to start this thing up, and it's a little tricky because you have to have the rotor energized to be able to pulsate the stator to cause it to rotate. So I may have to put an encoder disc on here to get it going. And the key is, once I get it going, then I want to let it to free run and actually start generating electricity. Of course, the load is always going to slow it down. There's no free lunch. But it's interesting when you start looking at the amount of output. And if I increase the stator load, of course I want to get a greater amount of energy back also. So it's a pretty interesting build, and I hope you enjoy this little update.